Some books do not shout their presence. They don't rely on spectacle or shock. They arrive quietly, and before you realize it, they have rearranged something inside you. David Salle's Flesh, the winner of 2025 Booker Prize, is one such book. This is not a story of grand adventure or dramatic revelation. It is a story of a man, and through him, the story of us, of bodies that labor, of desires that haunt, and of memories that cling, of quiet search for meaning in an increasingly mechanical world. So, let us begin, first with the story, and then with the mind behind it, then the truths that hold in our times. Our protagonist is Istvan. He is born in a working class district of Hungary, a boy of quiet observation, of restless energy, of hunger, both literal and metaphorical. His world is small: the cement blocks, the market, the slow pulse of provincial life. Yet even here, we sense his longing, not for riches, but for elsewhere. Zalle begins his tale not with thunder, but with texture, the rough surface of walls, the taste of dust, the smell of iron. The reader immediately senses that this will be a story told through the body. Istvan's early life is marked by hardship. His father is a figure of silence. His mother, a gentle presence weathered by work. There's no romance here, just a steady rhythm of survival. School fades into military services. The uniform becomes his first cage. He learns discipline, obedience, and the art of suppressing thoughts. The body moves before the mind can object. From here, life takes him outward, into Europe's restless spaces. He migrates westward, part of the invisible labor force that oils the machinery of richer nations. He cleans, he drives, he serves. His body earns, but his being remains unacknowledged. And yet, in this long movement of labor, there are moments of startling tenderness, a fleeting romance, and an unexpected act of kindness, a glance across a table that makes him feel seen. Zalle's genius lies in how he writes these fleeting moments. He does not dramatize them, he lets them breathe. The prose is sparse, deliberate, as if the author respects the reader's own silences. As Istvan moves in the orbit of Britain's super-rich elite, he becomes part of a world that is at once dazzling and hollow. He works as a driver, sometimes as a caretaker, sometimes as something less easily defined. He moves through marble halls, sleek cars, cold parties where champagne flows but conversation rarely warms. He witnesses power and the loneliness that hides behind it. He becomes a ghost in other people's luxury. Years pass, the body endures, but the soul begins to ache under the weight of invisibility. The novel follows him as he ages, as he begins to realize that the world measures of worth, productivity, utility, appearance begins to slip away from him. There is a haunting line in the book, never stated outright, but felt in every scene. What decides our worth when work no longer gives meaning? As Istvan's body begins to fail, he discovers something that the young man could never have imagined, that beneath all the striving, all the serving, all the noise of ambition, there exists a quieter kind of life, one grounded in simple presence, in the small grace of being alive. The novel closes not with a grand finale, but with stillness, a man, a body, a memory, the hum of existence itself. That is Flesh, a life told not through accomplishments, but through sensations, small awakenings, and the long journey of being human. David Salle, born in 1974 in Canada, to a Hungarian father and a Canadian mother, raised in Britain, educated at Oxford, Zalle's embodies, in many ways, the hybrid, transnational identity of our times. His earlier works, such as All That Man Is and Turbulence, already explored themes of masculinity, mobility, and disconnection. But Flesh, his sixth novel, is his most daring. When he received the Booker Prize, he said that he wanted to write about life as a physical experience, about what it's like to be a living body in the world. The sentence is the key to the book. Zale's prose is spare, almost ascetic, yet within that economy lies immense power. Every sentence feels deliberate, chiseled. He does not moralize, he observes. He does not dramatize pain, he lets it speak for itself. It's easy to see why Flesh has drawn international attention. In an age obsessed with spectacle, Zale observes and offers introspection. In an era of abundance, he writes with restraint. In a culture of noise, he gives us silence. The Booker Committee called Flesh an extraordinary singular novel, unlike anything we have read before, and truly so. It captures the spiritual restlessness of a generation caught between old moralities and new economies, between belonging and rootlessness, between work and worth, between body and identity. At its heart, Flesh is a phenomenological novel. Phenomenology, which is a school of philosophy that reminds us that the world is not something we merely think about, it's something we experience through our bodies. Zale's novel is built on that insight. He writes of hunger, fatigue, touch, light, and movement, the small sensory data through which existence becomes real. For Istvan, thought is secondary, life is first felt. The body is not a metaphor in Flesh, it is the truth itself. Every decision, every desire, every humiliation, it's all written on the skin, in the muscles, in the breath. And through that physicality, Zale says, if the body is where life happens, what happens when the body begins to fail? This is not despair, it's recognition that we are temporary and that there's a strange beauty in that temporariness. Istvan's value in society rises and falls with his productiveness. When he serves, he is seen. When he rests, he disappears. This dynamic echoes Marx's concept of alienation. How, in capitalist systems, human beings become estranged from their own essence because they are treated as instruments of production rather than the ends in themselves. Zale does not preach Marxism, but his narratives carries its resonance. He shows how an entire life can be consumed by the need to be useful and how devastating it is when usefulness ends. And yet, with that devastation, the novel plants a seed. Perhaps worth is not something the world grants, but something the self discovers when the noise fades. Istvan's body is his identity, his strength, his ability to labor, to please, to endure. These are the currencies of his self-worth. But what happens when those currencies lose value? Zale paints masculinity not as dominance, but as endurance, a quiet, stoic presence in a world that rarely rewards gentleness. The novel invites us to see that vulnerability is not weakness, it is the most human state of all. Through Istvan, Zale dismantles the myth of invulnerability. He shows that the true strength of a man may lie not in how much he can bear, but in how much he can feel. At its deepest level, Flesh is an existential novel. In the lineage of Camus and Sartre, it asks, how do we live meaningfully in an indifferent universe? But unlike those predecessors, Zale's answers is not rebellion or absurdity. It is attention. Meaning, he suggests, is found not in conquest or achievement, but in awareness, in the act of noticing. A cup of tea, the warmth of sunlight on a table, a shared silence. These not trivialities. They are the coordinates of life. Existence stripped of grandeur, still close. Now, why does Flesh matter today? Why has it struck such a global chord? Because we are living, paradoxically, in an era of disembodiment. Our lives are increasingly mediated by screens, algorithms, virtual spaces. We exist as profiles, data, productivity graphs. Work has moved online. Relationships often unfold through glass. We have become minds without bodies, and in that process, something essential has gone missing. Zali's novel pulls us back to the ground of being. It whispers, "You are here, you have a body, you are finite, and that is what makes you real." It also mirrors the global experience of migration and labor. The millions who cross borders, invisible yet indispensable, serving systems that rarely see them. In telling Istvan's story, Zale gives voice to that collective anonymity. He humanizes the invisible. In that sense, Flesh becomes a mirror, showing us the cost of modern progress, how we have traded slowness for speed, connection for convenience, and presence for productivity. But it's not a lament, it's a reminder, a call to re-embody our lives, to pay attention again, to return to the world of touch, breath, and being. If we listen closely, Flesh leaves us with the quiet pedagogy, lessons that are philosophical yet deeply practical. Reclaim attention. Pay attention to your body, to sensations, to the rhythms of daily life. Attention is the beginning of meaning. Let success be measured not in output but in depth, in the quality of presence, not the quantity of productivity. The smallest gestures, cooking, walking, watching light shift. See those who serve, who labor invisibly, recognize their humanity. Our bodies will age and falter, but awareness turns that inevitability into grace, not tragedy. When Flesh won the 2025 Booker Prize, it wasn't merely a literary triumph, it was a cultural signal. It told the world that literature still has the power to stop us, to slow us down, to make us feel that even in the algorithmic age, we hunger for the physical, the tangible, the human. The judges said that they've never read anything quite like it, and perhaps what they meant is that Zale had managed to capture what many of us have been silently feeling, the exhaustion of being seen only through productivity, and the yearning to be valued simply for existing. As the story of Istvan fades into the dusk, what remains is not despair but tenderness. Zale leaves us with a man who has learned through pain and time to inhabit his body again, not as an instrument but as a home. He teaches us that to be human is to be flesh, to be finite, to be fragile, and to be aware. In one of the most haunting, beautiful moments in the novel, Istvan sits by a window, watching light move across a wall. Nothing happens, and yet everything happens. He breathes, and in that breath, the entire question of meaning dissolves. That is Flesh, a story of human condition stripped to its essence, a meditation on what it means to live in a body, to serve, to love, to endure, and to find, at last, a small peace in being. So today, as you listen to these words, perhaps remember this. You too are flesh. You're not productivity, your deadlines, your status, or your data. You are the warmth of your body, the pulse beneath your skin, the quiet intelligence of being alive. And that alone is enough. And in the end, Flesh leaves us with one quiet truth, that human beings is more than their work, more than their use, more than their productivity. In this context, there's one line that's always there in my mind. मैं समय हूँ, मैं चुप हूँ, मैं केवल हूँ. I simply am. कभी-कभी बस होना ही काफी होता है. Not striving, not proving, just being. Because meaning does not always come from achievement. Sometimes it rises softly from the stillness of existence itself. And maybe that is the gift of this novel. A reminder that our worth is not measured by markets of systems, but by the simple, irreplaceable truth of being alive.